Welcome back. Revisions to the Bahamas Building Code are near completion and full implementation is expected in the third quarter of 2025. Here to discuss this with us are Sonia Brown, she's the principal of Graphite Engineering Limited. We have Nick Dean, he's the principal of IBS, and Craig Delancey, Building Controls Officer with the Ministry of Works and Family Island Affairs. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Morning. Hey, good to be
We're here talking about the building code, and there's been a lot of discussion about that, especially since Dorian. There's been a lot of working groups and work that's been done. The Honorable Clay Sweeting announced draft changes and that it's going to be implemented by third quarter 2025. So what are the major changes? Let us know what's up.
Well, the code will be totally revamped. It will be restructured under the basis of the International Building Code.
Right.
The International Building Code is sponsored by the International Code Council, which has been gathering wide attraction throughout the world and in the Caribbean. And so that is the major change. It would also include for energy efficiency in buildings. It would also talk about being able to use performance-based design methods rather than just the current way the code is now on a more restrictive method. It would also include for energy efficiency.
Right.
And nowadays everyone is concerned about the carbon footprint.
Yes.
And so we will be adopting the Caribbean Regional Energy Efficiency Building Code, which was also just recently produced in the last 5 years. And so we intend to have that as part of our new code as well. There's also going to be more update on accessibility in buildings and structures. And it would be more detailed information regarding access.
Seems like a very comprehensive task. It doesn't seem like an easy job at all. As a practitioner in the industry with IBS, what does the building code mean for your work, and how has your company been a part of this process?
Well, our company was part of the consultancy that was tasked with making the recommendations for the code upgrades. And, it's vitally important to all industry participants. As engineers, we use the codes because they are what defines the minimum standards for safety, efficiency, and resistance to impact, resiliency. And, part of the process is when you prepare a set of codes, it has to get input from the broader community.
Right.
The broader community being the general public. So when we started the process, we took an account of all the stakeholders. So we had meetings with the general public. We had focus groups with contractors, architects, engineers, basically everyone who is going to be using the code and everyone who is going to be impacted by any changes. And one of the driving factors was, in addition to changing the code and making it more performance-based and design-oriented,
Right.
moving away from being a prescriptive code, we had to incorporate lessons learned over the past years between the last code and now,
Right.
changes in materials, advances in construction, and very importantly, one of our main directives was to incorporate potential impacts from climate change.
Right.
And as an environmentalist, you understand sea level rise,
Yes.
Intensity increase, frequency increase in storms, et cetera, especially for a region like us that has these hurricane events and that has low-lying land, high groundwater tables.
Yeah.
These are very, very impactful things to us, and the new code is meant to incorporate some of those potential impacts.
And the Bahamas is a unique environment. There are other small island developing states. Maybe we can teach the world how to build in this kind of environment and under these impacts, right?
Why not?
As a practicing engineer, how would these changes to the building code impact your day-to-day work in design and delivery of projects?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that we have arrived at this point.
Woo!
It's been 21 years, and it's very difficult to really execute your projects to the standard that you want if you're working with an outdated code.
Right.
We have to realize that in the Bahamas, even though we're a small country, we undertake very sophisticated projects. When you think of Bahama or Disney, and the expectation from the clients and the persons who are going to be using it is that we're going to meet a very demanding international standard. And so updating the code allows us to keep pace with technology, to be at the cutting edge, and to ensure that any developments that we implement really meet the needs. You know, Nick spoke about resilience, energy efficiency, renewable energy, sustainability. All of those things are important as we move forward. So just very happy and congratulate the ministry for getting us to this point.
Yeah, right. 21 years later, right?
Yes. I'd just like to add to that, there will also be a section on coastal infrastructure guidelines,
Yes.
which would be part of the building code as well. And that would assist in dealing with vulnerability to hurricanes and floodplain areas.
Yeah. Because I want to stay in the Bahamas. I want my children to grow up here. I don't want to have to go anywhere, and we got to rely on the minds of engineers, the people who solve problems, and the code is the basis for that. I want to talk about inspections and inspectors and the role they play in this process. And there's been some discussion about adding additional inspectors to the pool of inspectors that are out there. So how do inspections work, and how does the proposed addition of other inspectors impact the industry?
Yeah. Well, currently, all inspections are done by the Ministry of Works Buildings Control Division, and it's mandatory under the Building Regulation Act.
Right.
However, due to the advances in building codes and construction materials and technology, the idea of having architects and engineers to assist, especially on projects where someone may be trying to fast track their project. So as the ministry inspectors, we work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And so this will give the latitude for persons to continue work on the weekends if they wish to do that. And if they hire an independent inspector, they can carry that work out, all of the inspections. However, for them to be a part of that, they would have to be registered with us so that we would be able to keep tabs on what is happening and to make sure they are accountable for the work they carry out.
Well,
And
it sounds. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so they would, you'd probably find them on larger projects as well,
Right.
or remote projects on some of the family islands. That's where it will be advantageous.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's needed. How do you think it will impact the industry, the building process? You think it'll be a good impact?
Well, I mean, it is a great positive. It's something that, as the engineering community, we have been lobbying for and working with the government, because we reviewed some of the documents that they prepared to establish what it might look like. And we need to remember that through the Local Government Act, we have a bit of an inequality in the requirements for inspections, because the local government officials have a lot of jurisdiction over what happens. So right now, if we introduce technical experts, engineers, architects to assist that, I think we'll see better outcomes on the family islands. So New Providence and Grand Bahama, they have the benefit of people like Mr. Delancey and his team who are very well trained, but the situation is not so equal on many of our family islands, and we must have a robust system of inspection. So I fully support it.
That's great. There's no point in designing it to code and then it doesn't get inspected properly.
Exactly.
Right? And then just as we wrap up, just as we talk about development along the coastline and in relation to climate change, what are some of the things, if I am going to be building and designing, that I should be thinking about when it comes to coastal development?
There are so many things, and the difficulty is in the Bahamas, we have so many islands that are very narrow. So both sides of a very long stretch of the island can be coastal.
Yeah.
So you're not in an area that's not coastal.
Right.
And things you have to consider are, in the event of a storm event, how high is that storm surge going to get? So your minimum finished floor elevation is one thing. The other thing is, what is the minimum road elevation, right? You have to consider that as well. You also have to do a proper site evaluation. So in the most fundamental way, some sites should just be avoided.
Right.
So even before you purchase a piece of property, it should be evaluated, and there should be some no-build zones.
Yeah.
Because frankly, the main purpose of our building codes overall is public safety,
Yes.
and avoidance is the best strategy in some instances.
Looks like we got to stick a pin in that one right there. But if you could go about this all day, I feel so smart. I feel like an engineer. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I just going to say that we hope by the third quarter of next year, the final draft will be in place.
Yes.
And along with the draft will come along with seminars, workshops, and certification courses as well that are offered by the International Code Council, which would help persons to become more familiar and be able to deal with interpreting the building code.
Yeah, because I know I'm in the industry, so I'm understanding this, and I appreciate all of your information this morning, and looking forward to it getting rolled out to the public, so the other stakeholders can understand the importance of the work of engineers, the inspectors, what the building code really means, architects. Can't forget the architects, right? We love them too. So thank you all for being here this morning, Bahamas at Sunrise. We look forward to hearing more out of what's going to be happening with our building code.
Excellent, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.